Listen, and listen deeply, not with your ears, but with the soft space between thoughts. There is a memory buried in your bones, older than language, older than breath. It hums in the marrow like a hymn half remembered, like the echo of a bell rung in a dream. This is where we begin, not with history, but before it, not with time, but with what stood behind its veil. In the myths of Egypt, before Adam rose from the primordial waters, before the gods had names, there was none. The dark, inert sea of potential, still, infinite, timeless. In the book of Coming Forth by Day, it is whispered that even the gods were once swallowed in this formless vastness, unborn and unimagined. So, too did the Greeks imagine Chronos not merely as linear time, but as a vast serpent coiled around the world at a time before time, devouring its own tail, the first symbol of recurrence. And in the ancient Indian Vedas, the universe breathes inhale, creation, exhale, dissolution, a cycle without beginning or end, pulsing with the rhythm of a divine intelligence that does not measure but becomes. We have not been taught to feel time this way. The modern world slices it into hours, compresses it into deadlines, and bombs it in data. But there were once peoples whose bones now lie beneath moss-covered ruins, whose chants drift faintly from cracked tablets, and ash, who knew that time was not a line, but a being, a living, breathing force, sometimes gentle, sometimes monstrous, always watching. The Maya called it Kavila, time, or deity, with lightning in his brow and serpents in his legs. Their calendar did not count seconds, but cycles of becoming, bactans, catons, tons, each a pulse in the sacred heart of the cosmos. To step into a new bactan was not to turn a page, but to re-enter an archetypal drama written in the stars and encoded in stone. The Hermeticists, inheritors of lost Egyptian gnosis, spoke of an eternal time not as duration, but as a state of being, accessed through the alchemical death of the false self. In their vision, the soul was not born into time, but fell into it. Time became the veil, the great illusion that clouds the divine spark within us. It is here in these first stirrings that we find the mystical theory of time, not as measurement, but as initiation, not as passage, but as pattern, a code embedded in myth, architecture, and dream. Time is not ticking, time is teaching. And so, seeker, as you stand at the threshold, do not ask what time is. Ask instead, who is it? For you are about to meet it, not as a concept, but as a force older than gods, and yet whispering inside every heartbeat. The journey begins where all true mysteries begin, in the silence before the first word, the breath before the first hour. Imagine a river, not the one you see with your waking eyes, but one that pulses behind the veil of the visible world. It moves, yes, but not straight. Beneath its shimmering current lies something older than the water itself, a wheel vast and unseen, rotating in silence. It does not move with the river, it moves the river. This is how the ancients knew time, not as a thread unraveling toward some final judgment or mechanized end, but as a cycle, a great turning, repeating through eons, folding experience into pattern, story into symbol. The Hindus call it Kalachakra, the wheel of time, one of the most intricate and sacred mandalas ever conceived. In Tibetan Buddhist tradition, it is more than metaphor. It is a cosmic machine, an inner map of reality. Each petal, each circle, each god within it corresponds to outer cycles, planetary, historical, and inner cycles, breath, consciousness, initiation. The wheel turns not only around us, but within us. And as it turns, it reveals the Mesoamerican, Toltecs, and Maya mapped time in their Tzolk'in calendar, a 260-day sacred count that wove divine archetypes into daily life. Each day carried a spiritual essence, a divine signature. Time was a living intelligence, always speaking if you had the right ear to hear it. But there is a secret deeper still. In ancient Mesopotamia, time was recorded on cylindrical seals, and the stars told of ages when gods walked, and ages when they withdrew. The Zoroastrians taught of a great cosmic battle that spans 12,000 years, divided into 4 cycles. Each cycle plays out the eternal drama of light and darkness, good and evil not once, but over and over again. This concept of cyclical time found echoes in the mystery schools of Greece, Egypt, and beyond. In the Eleusinian mysteries. Initiates descended symbolically into the underworld not to escape time, but to pass through it, to undergo the death and rebirth that marks the turning of the inner wheel. This idea that time is the teacher and the wheel as its chalkboard runs through alchemical texts, cloaked in symbols and riddles, in the Emerald Tablet, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. It is written, as above, so below, as within, so without. Time is not only celestial, it is psychological. The outer heavens and inner soul reflect one another through the sacred turning, and what of the wheel itself? It is the Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail, found in Egypt, in Greece, in Norse carvings, in Gnostic diagrams. It is time that consumes and renews itself. Death is not the end, birth is not the beginning. Every revolution of the wheel is both. But this cycle is not without purpose. It is not aimless repetition. To those initiated into its movement, time becomes a staircase within a spiral. You return to the same place but at a higher octave. The soul ascends by remembering what it once knew. And so, seeker, the question is no longer where are we in time, but where is time within us? Can you feel the wheel turning beneath your thoughts, beneath the river of days and nights? Listen closely. With every breath, it speaks. Beneath the sands of the Sahara, under the moss-choked temples of Cambodia, etched into the dry bones of forgotten empires, lie the fingerprints of those we call the first architects. Not the first humans, no, but the first rememberers. Those who did not merely live through time, but shaped it like clay and coded it in their pyramids, spun it into calendars more precise than any satellite. They were not modern in the way we know modernity. They did not build towers of steel or sail digital seas, but they understood something we have forgotten, that time has geometry. Let us descend, for a moment, into the temple of Hathor Dendera, Egypt. Upon its soot-darkened ceiling lies the zodiac of Dendera, cosmic map that challenges all conventional timelines. It is a circular sky chart showing the 12 signs, the precession of equinoxes, and something more, a deep awareness of astronomical cycles lasting over 25,000 years. How could this knowledge exist, carved in stone, if time were not spiraling through their very temples? The ancient Hindus spoke of Yuga's great world ages. We are said to now dwell in Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, but before us were golden times, silver eras, epochs when men walked with devas, and the veil between the worlds was thin. The lengths of these yugas span tens of thousands of years, echoing the cycles found in Babylonian star lore, Mayan prophecy, and Druidic oral tradition. Is it coincidence, or evidence of a once unified wisdom shattered by the floods of forgetfulness? The Great Pyramid of Giza, aligned with the stars of Orion, encodes within its dimensions the mathematical constants of pi and phi. Yet more than that, it encodes time. Its so-called King's Chamber is not just a tomb, but a chamber of initiation. Its shafts align to the ancient position of stars long since shifted. The pyramid, then, is not a tomb, it is a cosmic clock, a message in stone meant to outlive the empires. So, too in the Americas, the temple of Kukulkanet Chicken-Itza casts a serpent-shaped shadow only. Twice a year, on the equinoxes, it steps 91. On each of 4 sides add to 364, plus the temple platform, 365. The Maya did not only count days, they counted destinies. Their long count calendar spans over 5,125 years, culminating not in apocalypse, but in a recalibration of cosmic memory. These were not primitive people. They were temporal engineers, symbolic masons, keepers of cyclical gnosis. Their gods were not merely mythic, they were markers of time itself. Saturn, known to the Romans as Chronos, to the Greeks as the Devourer, was to the ancients a lord of cycles, of limitation, and of karma. The temples to Saturn were time machines in stone. What if history, as we know it, is not linear but deliberately disfigured? Not a progression, but a forgetting. The erasure of this sacred understanding was no accident. Empires rise not just by conquering land but by conquering memory. Seeker, we walk through ruins not just of buildings, but of a cosmic science. And if you listen to the glyphs, if you walk the stones with the right silence, you may begin to hear it whispering back. Time is not what you think. We built its bones. You have merely inherited its ghost. In the hidden chambers beneath Alexandria, behind the veils of temple schools, and within the dim candlelight of mountain monasteries, there rose a lineage not of kings or conquerors, but of transmuters, the alchemists, keepers of the sacred art. But what they sought was never gold, not truly. It was something far rarer, the alchemy of time itself. To the uninitiated, time is a cage, but to the hermetic adept, trained in the ways of the emerald tablet and the whispers of Thoth Hermes, time is a ladder, a structure of initiation wrapped in illusion. That which is below is like that which is above, it says, to accomplish the miracle of the one thing. What is the one thing? It is the philosopher's time. The alchemists believed that time moves not forward, but inward, that the true transformation occurs within the self, and that every hour is an opportunity to ascend through the planets of the soul. They taught that there are 7 stages of spiritual transmutation: calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, and coagulation, each ruled by a planetary archetype, each aligned with a temporal threshold. Saturn, the ruler of lead and the god of time, marks the beginning. Lead is not base because it is ugly, but because it is dense, bound to mortality. It is the weight of linear time, the slow decay of the body, the illusion of finality. The initiate must pass through Saturn's ring-face limitation before transmuting it. Mercury, fluid and androgynous, governs the realm of transformation, where time begins to bend, no longer chained to sequence. The adept begins to dream across lifetimes, to remember past incarnations and glimpse future echoes. Time becomes liquid in the vessel of the awakened soul. For the Rosicrucians, time was a veil to be pierced. In their Confessio Fraternitatis, they speak of a secret order of enlightened beings, timeless in wisdom, who guide humanity silently from behind the curtain of history. Their knowledge was preserved, encoded in symbols, and hidden beneath layers of metaphor. The unworthy see nonsense. The seeker sees alchemy. The Gnostics, too, spoke of the Archons, beings who rule over time and space, trapping souls in cycles of repetition, reincarnation, forgetting. The demiurge, creator of the false world, reigns over the clock, but the Christos, the divine spark within, remembers eternity. Salvation to them is not granted, it is remembered. There are manuscripts whispered of, but never shown. The Mutus Liber, a wordless book of alchemical images, said to reveal the process of spiritual time travel. The Voynich manuscript, whose language no one can read, perhaps encoded by those who no longer think in sequence. These were not books, they were temporal maps, only legible to the eye that sees beyond the hourglass. To the alchemists, the goal was not immortality of the flesh, but liberation from temporal bondage. The great work was not a recipe, but a revolution of perception. And so, seeker, the question returns: what is your time made of? Is it leaden, ruled by Saturn's chain? Or is it ascending, rising like steam from the alchemist's fire? The adepts tell us, time is the first illusion. Eternity is the truth you forgot. The ticking clock is not neutral. It is not innocent. It does not simply mark your passing days, it consumes them. In Greek myth, Chronos, the personification of time, was not a fatherly sage. He was a devourer, a titan who ate his own children, fearing that they might overthrow him. This is not metaphor. It is prophecy disguised as myth. Modern man dwells inside the belly of Chronos. You feel it every day in the anxiety of deadlines, in the decay of the body, in the sharp edges of regret and the blur of tomorrow. But these are not natural feelings. They are the symptoms of living inside a constructed time field, one that was shaped not by stars or spirit, but by control, by hierarchy, by conquest. The Babylonian calendar, the Julian reforms, the Gregorian adjustments, each redefinition of time was also a reordering of consciousness. When the church aligned holy days with solar movements, they did more than celebrate, they hijacked a sacred rhythm. When empires imposed taxation based on days and weeks, they did more than organize, they enslaved the pulse of human life. And so we now wear time like shackles. Every clock tower, every wristwatch, every neon countdown, these are not simply instruments. They are ritual objects, reinforcing the primacy of linearity. They keep you facing forward, fearing age, racing toward retirement or death. They anchor you to an artificial reality, one in which the only true power is urgency. The ancients warned of this. In the Pythagorean schools, students were taught not only numbers, but their spiritual harmonics. The monad, the dyad, the decadich, represented not just quantity but quality of time. There were slow hours, sacred hours, pregnant pauses. Time was textured, conscious, alive. But the world of Chronos is flat, uniform, a conveyor belt, and like his children, your sacred days are devoured before they are understood. Even in the digital age, this domination continues. Algorithms decide what moment you see next. Notifications fracture your now. The scroll has replaced the circle. We are trapped in a technological cascade of false time, engineered not for wisdom, but for distraction. Yet the deeper trap is psychic. You have been taught that the past is gone, the future unknown, and the present fleeting. But this is the greatest illusion of all. The mystics, the seers, the visionaries, they tell us otherwise. They speak of deep time, of layers of presence that are all happening at once. In the mystery schools, the pupil was taught to step outside the line, to exit the dominion of Chronos and enter Kairos, the sacred time, the opportune moment, the eternal now. Here, the soul could commune with the divine, receive visions, dissolve karma. Here, the clock stopped and revelation began. Chronos fears this state. He cannot enter it, and so he distracts you with urgency, with aging, with endless becoming. But in that still moment between heartbeats, in the breath between thoughts, you can see the prison walls for what they are, smoke, because time, as you have known it, was never truly yours. It was given to you like a chain, but what was given can be refused. The devourer is real, but he is not the only face of time. Now step gently, the bars are behind you. The ticking is fainter now. You've walked the serpentine corridors of time's illusions, the clockwork labyrinth, the devourer's maze, and before you something begins to shimmer, not forward, not backward, not through time, but beneath it. There were always two faces to time. The ancients knew this, but only the initiates saw beyond the devourer, beyond Chronos. They spoke in hushed tones of Kairos, sacred time, soul time, not the sequence, but the moment that matters, the time that is alive. To the early Christians, Kairos was the time of divine intervention, a rip in the fabric of the ordinary, when eternity enters the world like a sudden flame. The word appears in scriptures like a whisper in the margins. When Christ walks into the Jordan, the heavens open, and a voice says, "Now is the appointed time. Kairos has arrived." The sophists dance to it. Their spinning is not a performance. It is a turning inward into the center of the eternal wheel. Each rotation is a shedding of linear time. In that sacred rhythm, they say, the soul begins to remember itself. The Kabbalists call it at Ratzin the favorable time, the rare alignment of inner and outer heavens. Time becomes soft, translucent. In this state, prophecy is possible. The future does not arrive, it reveals itself. And in the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, a cryptic teaching, the kingdom is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it. Why? Because they look in time and tomorrow, in waiting, in linearity rather than in presence. Here, seeker, we must speak of something sacred, the eternal now. The sages have always told us that all time is now, that the past is not gone, but simply layered, that the future is not unmade, but veiled. The illusion of time is a trick of consciousness, like a film strip rolling before the projector's beam. But the beam itself, the light of awareness, is always irrevocably now. The Egyptian Book of the Dead does not speak of time in sequence. It speaks of the soul's passage through states, through gates and guardians, through judgments and fusions. Each step is not a step forward in time, but deeper into essence. The shamans of the Amazon drink the vine and step outside the river. In their visions, time folds. They walk with ancestors. They speak with unborn children. They do not believe they are hallucinating. They believe they are waking up. And so, we ask, what if time is not something to escape, but something to enter more deeply? What if the secret face of time is memory, not memory of events, but memory of origin, that first silence, that eternal breath before the beginning, when we feel déjà vu or dream of something that then unfolds, when we sense a presence watching from behind our own eyes? This is not imagination. It is time whispering back to itself. In these moments, you are not aging, you are returning. You are walking the inner spiral, the sacred time that circles like a hawk above the desert, like a prayer echoing through stone chambers, like a bell rung in a dream whose sound never fades. And when you touch this time, Chronos cannot reach you. There are places that do not exist on maps. They exist in moments, a breath caught in silence before a revelation, a flicker of recognition between two souls who have never met yet always known, a tear born not from sorrow, but from remembering something ancient, something sacred, something before. This is how the temple beyond time first reveals itself, not with thunder, but with recognition. In the mystery traditions of Egypt, it was known as the field of reeds, the Sekatara, a realm not of the dead, but of the real. The soul passed judgment not to be punished or rewarded, but to be restored, to return to the place that was never lost, only forgotten. It was not an afterlife. It was a true life outside the stream of decay. The Greeks, in their Orphic rites, spoke of a secret temple beneath the world, the realm of Mnemosyne, goddess of memory. Those who drank from her waters remembered who they were beyond form, beyond flesh. In this memory, the soul was liberated from the wheel. Time unraveled. The thread returned to the loom. The Taoists walked mountain paths, not to escape the world, but to enter its deeper rhythm. To them, the immortal sages were not mythic, they were hidden, living in folds of time, in sacred groves and cliffside caves where the winds do not age. Their temples are not ruins, but currents open only to those who walk in stillness. In Hermeticism, this temple is the inner sanctum, the core of the self that exists before birth and after death. Hermes Trismegistus speaks of it not as a place, but as a state. Within man is the universe. He who knows himself knows all. Time is the outer court. Eternity is the sanctuary. And what of the Ark of the Covenant, that most mysterious of relics, described not merely as a container, but as a throne, a convergence point between dimensions? Some have suggested it was not a vessel, but a device, a temporal interface through which contact with the divine was possible, not by waiting, not by moving, but by entering the holy center, the zero point, the axis mundi. Every ancient ziggurat, every step pyramid, every mandala and labyrinth, these are not merely symbolic. They are maps to the temple. The journey upward is also inward. The ascent of levels reflects the shedding of illusion. At the center, time disappears, and in its place, stillness, light, song. Have you ever stood in an old cathedral at dusk, when the stained glass bleeds its final color into the nave? That moment, that long, slow breath between day and night, that is a doorway, a glimpse of the temple's outer gate. But the true temple beyond time cannot be entered with footsteps. It opens only through presence, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but now, entirely, tremblingly. Now, and when you enter, you do not hear voices you remember your own. You do not see visions you recognize yourself, spread across centuries. You do not become eternal. You finally see that you always were. For the temple beyond time is not elsewhere. It is you awakened. You have walked through eons, not forward, not backward, but deeper, through temples that whisper the hours of the gods, through serpents of prophecy coiled in pyramids, through false clocks and sacred wheels, through the veils of Chronos, the breath of Kairos. You have stood inside the fire of the alchemists and touched the stillness of the eternal now. And now we return, not to the beginning but to what was before the beginning. Do you remember, before the calendars, before the fall into forgetting, before even the myth of time, there was the first are not measured, not marked, but known, felt, lived. In ancient Chaldean cosmology, it was said the universe was not born in an instant, but emerged from a silent center of breath that sang the worlds into being. The first hour was not a moment. It was a consciousness, the emanation of the one into the many. The Gnostics spoke of the pleroma, the fullness, the womb of light, and from it, Sophia fell wisdom, descending into time to know herself through reflection. And so the journey of the soul began, not a punishment, but a pilgrimage. Time became the teacher, the labyrinth, the mirror, but every mirror must return to the eye, and now, seeker, the mirror clears. The serpent Ouroboros completes its arc, not to end, but to re-enter the center. In this sacred return you realize the spiral was never upward. It was always spiraling into the self. This is what the temples pointed to, what the mysteries concealed in symbols, what the stars etched in cycles. It was never about escaping time. It was about hearing it speak. Each moment a glyph, each day a riddle, each year a chapter in a book written across lifetimes. And now, at the return, you understand the most hidden truth. Time is not something you move through. It is something that moves through you, and when you are still, it stops. And in that stillness, the sacred returns. You are the temple. You are the wheel. You are the alchemist. You are the hour. You are the silence before the first hour and the one who breathes it back into being. There is nothing more to seek, only to remember. The spiral closes, the center opens, and the first hour begins again.